frame. We broadened it out even more, and unfortunately, there's quite the line of thunderstorms that's out there along US 50, south of Columbia, going out towards Sedalia. Now that is something we really need to watch, because remember what we had here, a week ago. It was very much like this, where we saw that area kind of form a line and then move over the same spots. And that's why we're most concerned about areas to the south of St. Louis later on through the overnight hours into very early this morning, because of what's out there heading our way. But in the immediate time frame, it is incredibly noisy around St. Louis. Cloud-to-ground lightning is atrocious right now. If we just do a check on this, and again, we may be looking at some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds in a few places. We think for the most part that is going to be off to the south and southeast of the city here, down towards Melville, Oakville, maybe over towards Lee May, and then working our way over here towards 255 in Columbia, Illinois. But it doesn't look like we've had a lot of reports of wind with this system. But we have had a tremendous amount of lightning. If we just look here in northern portions of Jefferson County, and I just pull this little box up into North St. Louis County, that's 643 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes. That's huge. These storms have a tremendous amount of electricity with them. A lot of lightning, just a tremendous amount. You look over there towards Busch Stadium, and you saw all that heavy rain coming down right now. We are looking at some issues here on the roads. Traffic is slowing down. We've had one report of a standing water with rescue from a person that drove through an intersection at Fifi and Grissom. That's up there, not too far from downtown Maryland Heights. So again, don't drive through flooded roads. Please don't. It's not the good thing to do. So heavy rain pouring down throughout St. Louis right now. Some gusty winds have prompted a severe thunderstorm warning, which will expire in about 10 minutes for areas east and southeast of St. Louis. We can check on that. Let's see the status of the wind. We can look with our velocity scope tool. You see some brighter reds are still showing up in there, so we still may be looking at some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. It's certainly possible. Let me check the power outage situation, because power outage is always a good indication of how good or bad things are. And we're going to say they're bad now, because we're up to about 9,500 customers in St. Louis County that are without power. Now, we were down just below 5,000 before this batch of storms moved in. St. Charles County's got up to about 2,000 customers that are without power right now. So that probably includes my house. So, there's a fair number of power outages. Could be because of winds, could also be because of lightning. You got a lot of things going on there. North Lindbergh, up in Hazelwood, standing water, people trying to drive through it. Please don't drive through flooded roads. We can't have that. That's really causing problems. So please don't drive through the flooded roads. There's a look at your velocity kind of scope. Let me stop the looping of there. You see down towards Melville, it's kind of brighter red there, and over towards Columbia, Illinois. So if we're going to have the gusty winds, that's where we're going to have the gusty winds. All right. Now, I do want to get in a little bit different perspective here without all the lightning on there and the other additional heavy rain coming in from the west. So we've got our flash flood warning. I'm going to pop on the, let's just take off the radar for a second, and let's just see how much rain we've got here. Okay, and let's put it in right now. So we know up by the airport, and North St. Louis County was hit hard earlier today. And so the airport should be pushing about 3 inches, and that's what we're showing here as you get up towards Hazelwood. There's even a 4-inch marker there. Out towards St. Peter's, we're showing 1.6 out there. There's a 2.7 right there in St. Peter's by Mid-Rivers Mall. So, amounts vary. Again, it's kind of the same scenario that played out last week. Some spots really got pounded and others not as much. There is a flood watch in effect for areas south of St. Louis. Right now, the ongoing flooding is actually in the city and in the county. So it includes St. Louis County, this flash flood warning does, and it also includes the city of St. Louis. And that's going to stretch right on until about 2:30 in the morning is when that goes till. So we're seeing, a quick inch in 30 minutes, 1 to 3 inches overall in that hour and a half. And so that's creating problems. Once again, the poor drainage areas, any poor drainage area around St. Louis is a problem at this point, and that's pretty typical. We're also going to be looking at that possibility that some of these winds, even if they're only 40 or 50 miles per hour, with all the rain we've had around St. Louis, it doesn't take as much to blow over trees and knock trees over. They're uprooted easier because of that. We've also had a lot of branches that have been stressed by all of the storms we've had lately. And so in some cases, you weaken the branches, and then that makes it easier for the next storm to, kind of finish the task of breaking it off. Look at all the lightning in these storms. I mean, they are just electrified tonight. Huge amounts of lightning with these storms as they're sliding through the St. Louis area right now. It's just absolutely incredible, the amount of lightning that we're seeing. That if you look in St. Louis, northern portions of Jefferson County, and include St. Charles County, you're looking over 1,000 lightning strikes in just like the last 15 minutes. Noisy, noisy, noisy. So it doesn't look like at this point the National Weather Service is going to extend the severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect here over crossing the river, parts of St. Clair, Monroe, city of St. Louis County. Doesn't look like that is going to get extended. The flash flood warning, though, will remain in effect until 2:30 in the morning. And if these storms don't keep moving and we keep seeing redevelopment back to the west here, meaning more thunderstorms come through, if we get another little cluster like this, then we're going to be in a hot mess. Lambert, what did they just tell us? Lambert had, in about 40 minutes, almost 1.75 inches of rain. And that's in addition to about the 1.5 inches we had earlier. So that now pushes us over 3 inches. So getting that much rain that fast, that's where we run into problems when the rain intensity is greater than what the storm drains can take. And keep in mind, a lot of these storm drains, they still have junk clogging them from flooding last week, not only from Monday night into Tuesday morning, but again from the storms that we had go through Thursday afternoon. There's just a lot of debris that still nobody has been able to get out and clean out at this point. So, if you're in a flood-prone area and things normally flood, you potentially have problems with this ongoing right now and likely to continue. If you're in an area where your car sometimes has flooded out, in a parking lot of an apartment, and you didn't get flooded out last week, and you need to maybe scoot out and move your car up to higher ground just in case that area floods again, because we are in a situation right now with the rain pushing through and the potential for flash flooding across the St. Louis area. So I don't think we're looking at massive flooding. So at this point, but again, as we've said, if these storms keep going over the same spots continuously for a while, we're going to have additional problems that develop through the course of the night. So the flash flood warning in effect for the city of St. Louis, you can see there's a little break in the rain right now over parts of West County, and then you've got the next storm that's coming in about ready to cross the Missouri River out of St. Charles and move into St. Louis County. That has some pretty good downpours with it. And then you've got the next batch that's out here by Washington, Missouri, and then stretching out towards New Haven and Berger. That's moving towards the east. So that area too is an area that we'll be monitoring here as we head through the remainder of the overnight hours. So flash flooding is quickly becoming the main concern once again. Now, we'll get a break from time to time. That's going to continue to happen as we head through the evening and rest of the overnight hours. You'll get breaks from time to time, but you're still looking at, really heavy rainfall around the St. Louis area, and the fact that it's going to continue to come at us, over and over for the next hour or two. You got a couple more that we got to get through before all is said and done. So, we're just gonna sit and wait. And if you're in a flash flood prone area, especially on the southern areas of St. Louis County, we get down towards the area where this storm is kind of holding back a little bit down here. Let's stop this, and then let's just go back. Let's take it back just very slowly. See how the storm is just it's rolled into Afton, it's rolled in through Valley Park, but yet the southern part of it's not really moving that much farther to the east. It's just kind of sitting along that Interstate 44 corridor there, and we're not seeing it move quite as quickly as we'd like. And so this area may end up seeing a little heavier rainfall before it's all said and done. And of course, that could pose problems. This is also an area, let's get over here towards Maplewood and Brentwood, where we've got, Black Creek and Deer Creek, and we have our traditional problems that we see in these areas when we get the rapid rises on those particular areas, on those particular creeks. And the ground is still pretty wet, so these are concerns that we have here going through the remainder of the night, and the fact that there's still more storms out to the west that we have to deal with, stretching across Warren County and even up to our north. Some of those storms, a lot of lightning with these storms tonight. And it's just, if you're under the storms, it's going to be hard to get a good night's sleep. Then you've got the batch that's forming out by Lake of the Ozarks and back towards Sedalia. That probably stays south of the metro area as we head through the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning, but it's definitely something that we will continue to watch. So that's the latest that we've got right now. A lot of storms around the region tonight. Severe weather, again, not the biggest threat. The biggest threat's going to be from the flooding potential and the flash flood warning in effect now for the city of St. Louis and much of St. Louis County. And already, because there's so much rain that came so fast, we already have some water rescues that are ongoing because roads became flooded. So the bottom line is, don't drive through flooded roads. You can't tell, especially when it's night, you can't tell how deep the water is. And if you go driving into it, there's a chance your car is going to get stalled and you're going to be stuck. And if the water's still flowing in there and rising, then it becomes a situation where you got to be rescued, and it can be a pretty dangerous situation. So we've had 1 to 2 inches of rain in about 45 minutes to an hour. Some spots maybe a little more than that. There's a little more to go with that bottom or that backside coming in from St. Charles County. And so you are looking at some flooded roads around the St. Louis area. And we'll continue to see water rescues taking place. We've had a couple, one reported up on Lindbergh, I think up in Hazelwood. And we've also had some reports, Old Warson Road and McKinley Avenue being closed in Ladue because of standing water, which is that's a common spot that we have those issues. Maryland Heights reported a standing water rescue with a car stranded, Fifi and Grissom Drive. Again, issues where you're driving into water that's covering the road. So again, we're going through this ordeal here. I think as long as we can keep things moving along, it's not as big of a problem as what we saw last week. But again, for the southern part here, down 44, you've got more rain lingering there along 44. And then you have the area back to the west that's still yet to come in from Washington, Missouri. We'll see how much punch that packs as it gets in here. So flash flooding definitely going to be a concern through the overnight hours. Right now, it's the city of St. Louis as well as St. Louis County where we're seeing the greatest problems. And a lot of that is because it's water in the urban area, and the area is already wet still from last week. So we're just going to leave, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to leave the radar streaming up here, and I'm going to turn this mic off. And Jacob, you know what? We can just let the radar continue to just stream here, and we'll let this go. I'll just cut the mic and cut the sound, and we'll keep you updated here, and that way I can just pop back in if I need to, maybe, unless Jacob tells me otherwise. But that's what I'll do for now. I'm just going to let this sit here on the radar, and I'll turn the mic off. Hey everybody, we are continuing to monitor the situation here across the metro area. Very active night. Certainly a lot of you are probably still awake because of the storms moving through the area right now. Tremendous amount of lightning, a tremendous amount of rain once again. 2 to 3 inches of rain on short order. We do have some roads that have been flooded because of that and some road closures around the metro area. Some of the usual places that flood is where we're seeing the problems. Unfortunately, we're also seeing the usual people drive into those areas. We're seeing water rescues having to be taking place. So we're also hearing that there may be some flooding of basements in University City, which we wouldn't doubt that one bit because the airport out in St. Anne, actually not officially at the airport, but near the airport in St. Anne, about 2.5 inches of rain in the last hour. Now you can see that heavier rain is shifting south of St. Louis right now. South of the city anyway, or should we say maybe even just south of the arch. We have a new flash flood warning that's for South St. Louis County, northeastern portions of Jefferson County, then goes and covers much of Monroe and parts of St. Clair County as this cluster of thunderstorms here is dropping off towards the southeast. And that's the one that's really producing the heavy rainfall across the area. So right now, you know, you go south down 55 out of the city and it's really a slow go where the rain pouring down. Now, we have seen it let up a little bit here as you get up now towards University City, and you get a bit of a break briefly up here in Hazleton, but then Hazelwood, but then you get more into it as you get back into Florissant and then get back into the Bridgeton area. You got this next little batch that's coming in, but fortunately behind that, it looks like the next one that's out by Wentzville and Lake St. Louis may slide a little farther south of the airport. Now that could set things up for, you know, a not so pleasant experience here across southern portions of St. Louis County and going into northern Jefferson County as we see additional rainfall going over the same areas. A lot of spots earlier today had some very heavy rain, then we've had a break, and now we've had more intense rain. And you look back to the west and, you know, it stretches here back across the Ozarks. We're seeing some of these pretty big storms in parts of mid-Missouri. Look at all the lightning with these storms that are out to the west too. And even over us, the amount of lightning is just incredible. A very, very noisy weather pattern here around the metro St. Louis area as water continues to roll through. Now, we just told you a few minutes ago that in St. Anne, about 2.5 inches of rain in the last hour. Fire department is on the scene of a few stranded vehicles at Geraldine Avenue and St. Charles Rock Road. That's near Coldwater Creek. Again, that doesn't surprise us, but that's something, you know, where we got to remind you over and over, don't go driving into areas where the water is covering the road. It's a dangerous thing to do, and it usually ends badly, and the water always wins. So just don't drive through the flooded roads. You don't want to put yourself in danger tonight. It's late at night. It's 11:22, coming up on midnight in the next 40 minutes. And we know we've got some third shifters who, you know, are going into work, and you've got some second shift, the evening shift that's getting off work. And so, you know, maybe just give it a little bit of extra time, or if you're getting ready to head out, you definitely just want to make sure that you're not driving into those areas. And for many cases, a lot of these roads that are flooded right now, there's not like there's signs up. The highway department can only work so fast. And, you know, the rain came in just, it came in just about an hour's worth of time. So that's what we've got there. So the Weather Service folks, I'm just kind of reading what they say. You know, the situation, the second line that's coming in from the west is definitely going to make things worse if this holds together. It's pretty intense rainfall that's out there falling over New Melly right now and moving into Wentzville. So if that comes into the metro area, it certainly isn't going to help the situation at all. The problem will also be is if we see additional development back along the Missouri River sliding onto the east. So you've got your clusters of thunderstorms around St. Louis. You do have your flash flood warnings that are in effect. Look at all that lightning. Can you look, just unbelievable. It's South County, heading over towards Columbia, Illinois right now. You know, it's just hard to think you'd even be able to get a halfway decent night's sleep. Let's stop this. Look at this. Let's just look at the amount of lightning in this area. I'm not even getting it all with this, but that's a rough estimate. There's 419 strikes there. If I actually did it the right way and got back here and got the western part of the storm, but there's another 50 or 60 there. 447, okay, yeah. That's a lot in 15 minutes. That's a lot of lightning. And that's all pretty much right along the Merrimack River and then up towards 4064, 270, south of 4064, going down to, you know, all the way down into South St. Louis County, northern portions of Monroe County, into St. Clair County. I mean, it is really noisy with all of that lightning. And here's a picture from downtown. Just look at the camera. It's nearly continuous lightning that we're dealing with around the St. Louis area at the moment, in addition to the heavy rainfall. Now, it does look like the rain has let up some in downtown St. Louis because we can actually see the arch, which that wasn't the case earlier. But we can. So there. Okay, now you got my audio back. I guess we just lost the audio. So anyway, there's what you've got with the storms. And I'll get you back over here. And you can see, you know, we've got our 2 flash flood warnings in effect. And the problem that we're really looking at here is that your line of storms out here to the west that's still in St. Charles County and Franklin County, that still has to move into the metro area, and it's moving over the same spots that have just had 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, and those are the same areas that earlier this afternoon had 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. So here we are again in a situation where, you know, if you are prone to water problems, you have water problems. And even some areas that aren't because of last week's rain, you know, the ground is still relatively saturated, and we're still looking at problems here in many locations, and quick rises on the creeks and streams, especially the small creeks and the streams. A lot of urban areas where there's poor flooding, you know, it's a problem when you can't drain the water. And you know, our sewers, our storm sewers are designed for like a 50-year storm, or a storm that theoretically only occurs once every 50 years. Well, these days, those storms are occurring much more frequently. And so, you know, we're having to deal kind of with that. And the fact that it is so frequent and so much of a problem, because it does create issues for us. I'm trying to find the USGS stream gauges here. I don't know if it's going to let me go in. And that's not really what I wanted to see. Yeah, let me see if I can get some of the... USGS has been having some website issues from what I understand lately. I don't know why, but a lot of their stuff is running a little slow. So if I look at all of the things here, I don't know that I'm going to find my small streams in St. Louis. Just kind of checking here. Nope, 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 nope. No, I'm not getting what I want to be able to help you out here. Although maybe this will. Let's see what this looks like. This is one of the Deer Creeks. Deer Creek has jumped up. It's definitely jumping. So it's not as high as it was last week, but it's definitely jumping pretty quickly. So it's up, gauge height, your flood stage. So it looks like Deer Creek now at Litzinger Road is up to flood stage. So that's not a good sign. So that's a pretty quick jump. And last week it was up about 14 feet and now it's up to about 10. Wow. Okay, that's a pretty quick jump. Okay, and that's operated by the Metropolitan Sewer District. Want to look at the other, at Deer Creek and Maplewood. Let's see how it's doing. It's also taken a big jump. It's not up to flood stage yet, but it is jumping. 141 in Marshall Road, water is over the roadway and the road is closed. We've also had reports of a couple of trees down on fences out in Ladue. Not sure if this was with the last storm that came through. Probably was, because we did have some gusty winds with that. But you know, here's what we're looking at right now. And again, if you're on near any of the smaller creeks that normally rise in heavy rainfall, they just got really stressed because 2 to 3 inches of rain in an hour is a lot of rain and a rapid rise, especially when most of it's running off because the ground is so wet. So that, you know, that's another issue that we're dealing with. So you mainly get mostly runoff instead of anything actually soaking into the ground. And here comes this next batch in through Cottleville from Lake St. Louis and stretching down farther to the south. And of course, they are continuing the flash flood warning for St. Louis. And we now know it's observed. We have no qualms about that. The biggest thing here is just, you know, at night you can't see outside. You can't tell that, you know, you're ready to drive into flooded waters. So that one's till 2:30. That's the one that covers St. Louis, most of St. Louis County and the city of St. Louis. And then the other one, flash flood warning down here, is for Jefferson, Monroe, St. Clair, and St. Louis. That goes until 3:15 in the morning. And again, you know, once you start getting down into Jefferson County and even into West St. Louis County and back into parts of Franklin County and that southwest corner of St. Charles County, you start getting into more hilly terrain, which also poses another set of issues with how the water drains and how we deal with the runoff there, because that can create problems. So in Ladue, the officers have an unknown sized tree blocking the roadway that cannot be removed, and that's at Old Warson Road and Waterbury Drive. So Ladue's had some trees down tonight. We did note that the power outages jumped up to about 9,000 customers in St. Louis County. I'm going to check kind of real fast here. In Madison County, we're back up to 5,429, Madison County, Illinois. It had dropped to about 1,600, I think, or maybe even 1,100 if I remember correctly, around 10 o'clock. I mean, you just have a handful here and there across St. Clair and Randolph, but Madison County by far has the largest on the Illinois side. And then on the Missouri side, St. Louis County is up to 11,000 customers without power. Jeffco at 354. St. Charles County has 2,925. and out in Warren County has 693. Franklin County has 204, and St. Francis County 376. So St. Louis County, St. Louis City has about 900 customers without power. St. Louis County, though, over 11,000. A lot of those were North County from earlier, and I think we've added to that across southern parts of St. Louis County with the gusty winds that we've seen with this last batch of storms. And you see how it's kind of stretching out here down to the south of St. Louis. You're kind of starting to see it form into an area, making almost a whole line there by itself, and then that's going to slide off to the southeast or east-southeast and keep dropping the heavy rainfall. You know, everything is still in play for heavy rainfall across the bi-state region as we go through the nighttime hours tonight, especially south of St. Louis, but not exclusive of the metro area. The metro area is just kind of on the northern fringes of this heavier rain. You see some more heavy rain out Interstate 70 going from Greenville over towards Vandalia. That's about to be a very long, challenging drive with the heavy rain intensity picking up there. 44 is pretty intense rainfall, not only once you get out of the city, but it's really picking up once you get down towards Pacific and stretching towards St. Clair as those storms are rolling through there. So we have more to go. It's back to the west in a longer line here that stretches back towards Sedalia and headed towards the Lake of the Ozarks. So that area is moving southeast. Now, if we can keep these storms moving more southeast or more south than east and kind of keep the heaviest rain from being over the same areas over and over, then we may be able to, avoid a lot worse problems than what we're already experiencing and or expecting. So just from a power outage standpoint, St. Louis County, over 11,000 customers. St. Charles County, almost 3,000 customers. Warren County, 693. Jefferson County, 843. And then we look over on the Illinois side, and Madison County by far in Illinois has about 5,400 customers without power. Macoupin at 225, Montgomery about 100. Greene and Jersey had big numbers earlier, at least percentage-wise from their counties, but we're able to make some good progress there and get most of those people back on. So flash flooding is our main threat. I think the wind gust with these storms that we're seeing is probably going to be in that 25 to 35 mile per hour range. That's the range we're looking at for the wind speeds here. So I don't think we're looking at a severe weather threat. We briefly out of this complex about an hour ago pulsed up some gusty winds, but that seems to have eased a bit now, and now we're just dealing with the heavy rain sliding across the area and that tremendous amount of lightning, which now is centering itself over towards Columbia, Illinois, and working towards the southeast. Now, these thunderstorms back in St. Charles County have a good deal of lightning with them too, and they'll be sliding into the metro area and through the metro area over the course of the next 15 to 20 minutes. So again, we're going through the same routine here. Seems like it's getting more repetitive than we would like. The rainfall out in St. Charles County is pretty intense, and that's pushing to the east. So it's going to be moving right into St. Louis County and hitting these areas here in West St. Louis County that have been hit pretty hard. So we do have water on roads. With the heavier rain sliding now into Jefferson County, Franklin County where there's hills, we want you to be very careful that you don't drive through flooded water, the low water crossings, because the water racing across there can easily carry your car away, even your truck. 12 inches of water will make stuff move, and you don't want to be in rushing water. There's your heavy torrential rain going down Route 3 in Illinois from Columbia down to Waterloo. Very heavy rain, a lot of lightning here over the farm fields as you go south of the metro area. And then you look back here into St. Charles County, and there's your next batch of rain coming in. So let's see, in St. Louis County, looks like somewhere in close to central parts of St. Louis County, about 1.25 inches measured in 1 hour there. So, and that's about 1.25 to 2.5 inches in an hour is what we were seeing out of this system that's now pushing down into Arnold and pushing across the river into parts of St. Clair County and into Monroe County as well. So rough go down Route 3 from Waterloo up to Columbia, 255 sloppy, JB Bridge, that work going on down there. Probably some poor drainage in that area too on the approaches to the JB Bridge either side because of the road work. Then you've got the area down in Jefferson County starting to pick up some heavier rainfall right now back into Franklin County. And just a really noisy time of it here in St. Charles County with the next round of thunderstorms that's coming through. So these storms are noisy. They're going to keep us up, but we are at least getting a little bit of a break now over parts of St. Louis County before this next round pushes in. And hopefully it will not be as efficient at rainfall, although we suspect it probably will be as it pushes in towards the metro area. So again, flash flood warnings are continuing across the area. They're scrolling on TV. We'll leave that crawl up all night long. And the biggest takeaway here is, don't drive through flood roads. I think, there's a lot of folks that have been through flooding in the last week that are having to deal with this again, with water coming in to the basements and, flooding parts of their homes again. And, just as they're trying to clean up from the last event. So we'll keep you posted. We're going to monitor this scenario here going through the rest of the evening hours. We know that the flash flood watch is in effect for areas south of St. Louis. We now have the flash flood warning in effect for St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and then stretching over into Monroe and parts of St. Clair County. And, we're just going to monitor these storms through the overnight hours as they continue to produce rain and as more storms build back to the west and slide in and across the area. So I'm going to put it back on the radar for you. I'll turn my mic off. We'll probably take a look at the camera for a little bit, and then we'll get back to the radar, and I'll do a bit of housekeeping here and try to get up to date and up to speed on a couple of things. And, of course, I'll be back with you in a little bit. All righty. Okay, we're going to jump back in here. It is midnight, and we are going into Thursday morning. And what we're looking at here for you guys is the rainfall totals around the metro area. And we're pushing 2 to 4 inches here of rainfall. And a lot of that has come in about an hour or so. So that's substantial. And, you know, the ground's still saturated and still pretty wet from the rain we had last week. So in a lot of cases, North St. Louis County, out here from Ladue and Frontenac heading down into South County, we have reports now of water that's over the roads and people that are driving into that water and then getting stuck. And, you know the story, and then the fire department has to come out, and it's kind of a frustrating scenario that's playing out. So just please don't drive through flooded roads here as we go through the remainder of the evening. We look down here towards Melville. That's showing us close to 3 inches there. There's a spot here just southwest of Augusta that's showing 5 inches in the last 24 hours. In North County, a good 3 inches. We know for a fact Lambert has had over 3 inches of rainfall today. In fact, in St. Anne, in about an hour, they picked up upwards of, I think it was about 2.5 inches of rain around St. Anne in just about an hour's worth of time with this cluster of storms that came on through. So here's the big picture. Okay, now that's without lightning. But there's the big picture showing you all the rain, and boy, do we have the rain. You've got it stretching from Effingham along 70, and then really this cluster that's been around St. Louis has been loaded up with really heavy rain. And then it stretches back to the west, and even some more development here occurring out along 70 and north of 70 from Kingdom City back towards Columbia. So these are all storms we're watching. They're tending to move towards the southeast. So we think that for much of the rest of the night, after about 1 or 2 o'clock, the threat will then start shifting off to the south of St. Louis as we go through the night. But what I want to do now is add in the lightning. There's a lot of folks not getting much sleep tonight. It is a pretty noisy night with these thunderstorms sliding across the metro area, and particularly now stretching all the way from Gasconade County through Franklin County and then right into the heart of the metro area. And these storms have just been loaded. I mean loaded with lightning this evening. The Matisse Creek at Matisse has already risen to the level it reached during last week's flash flood. Well, that's not good news. That is not good news at all. We have more information from the Weather Service on that in a few minutes. But let's look down here at your lightning. Look at the noise. Look at the rain that's ongoing here across really southern portions of St. Louis County, mostly now into Jefferson County, St. Clair, and Monroe counties. And maybe stretching down, the heavier rains going down into Randolph County, but you haven't had that much down that way. Now, we come back up a little farther north, and we still have some pretty heavy rain that is sliding in here across the region from Bridgeton, from about the airport, back through Creve Coeur, and then out towards Boone's Crossing. That's sliding in, but that's tending to lose a little bit of its punch. And if we've ever wanted something to lose a little bit of its punch, that would be it. We want this rain to ease up. We don't need additional heavy rain. I mean, we're going to have a little more, but this batch here that went through and is now down just south of the Merrimack River mostly, and then over into Illinois, that was producing rainfall rates, of a couple to maybe 2.5 inches an hour or so. And that, on saturated ground, that's a real problem. It just really is. Now, we still have some heavier rain stretching out here into Franklin County, into Gasconade County, and then you look back here, going out towards Kingdom City and out towards Columbia. More development out in this area, sliding to the southeast. And so those are the areas that we're going to watch that are moving southeast bound. And hopefully we'll miss most of the metro area with the heavier rain. Now, because they are moving into this area down to the south, that's where our flash flood watch is in effect. Now, we haven't taken a look not only that, here's the flash flood watch. It's basically for the areas south of St. Louis. But we haven't looked at the rainfall projections. This is updated every hour. This is one of the high resolution models. And you know, they're not always perfect. They may be misplaced a little bit. But notice over towards Mount Vernon, towards Nashville, Illinois, Centralia, it's trying to kick off, you know, 4 or more inches of rain there. That's problematic for sure. But, you know, even though 2 to 3 in the metro area, this was in addition to, you know, it's running from right now and then kind of basing it on what's to come later on tonight and early tomorrow morning. So, you know, it may be a little bit off, but, you know, places that get 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, especially in the hills southwest of St. Louis, that really is a significant problem because of all the low water crossings that exist in those areas and the subsequent problems that come with that. So you've got the flash flood warning here for the southern parts of the metro area. That's at St. Louis, far St. Louis County, northeastern portions of Jefferson County, over into Monroe and into St. Clair County. So that's where this is. Well, if we can get it to pop on there, maybe not. And then you've got the flash flood warning for St. Louis City, and a good chunk of St. Louis County as well. So Yarnell Creek in Fenton's higher than it was during last week's flash flood. You know, that's kind of what we were looking at. Mackenzie Creek at Shrewsbury has reached the level it was last week. So again, you know, a lot of the same areas that have been dealing with issues are still dealing with those issues again tonight. And we're seeing some pretty big jumps. Deer Creek is jumping now. It looks like it's about 8 feet, latest stage there. Flood stage there is about 16 feet. And so, you know, it's not to where it was on the 28th, last Thursday, but it certainly is making a jump. Let's see what Black Creek and Brentwood is doing. Black Creek and Brentwood looks like it's getting pretty close. Let's see, National Weather Service flood stage. So it looks like it's just gone above flood stage, so it's a little higher than 13 feet. Still not as bad as last week. Mackenzie Creek is, you know, at or above where it was last week. Wonder if it's going to level out. But that looks like that's at flood stage. I'll look at Kiefer Creek out in Baldwin. I don't think this one's going. Oh, yeah, it's up there too. So as you look at the radar pictures here, I'm kind of just looking through the USGS. It's a slow process of just kind of clicking on and looking through them. But Kiefer Creek has taken a big jump near Baldwin. It looks like it might be dropping just a bit, but it also looks like it's pretty darn close to what it was last Thursday. That's pretty, you know, that was still pretty substantial. Let's see how Fishpot looks. That's not quite as bad as it was last week. Gravois Creek is not up to flood stage yet, but it is rising rapidly. You know, all of these creeks, the one thing you get, you know, when we look at this, the heavy rain like we're seeing, you get 2 inches in an hour, you get a substantial jump. And the creek in your house, and you know, that may be out in your neighborhood that maybe is like a trickle of water, and especially before the drought was like a trickle of water, you get several inches of rain really fast, and those things jump, you know, 4 to 6 feet in 15 or 20 minutes, become raging torrents. And in some cases, they're jumping, you know, several feet and then going out of their banks and causing flooding. So we got another batch of rain heading into St. Louis right now. This one's not as heavy as the last batch that we dealt with. It doesn't have as much lightning. Most of that lightning is kind of concentrated out there in Wildwood and Chesterfield, kind of along Clarkson. out through Highway 100 and Manchester Road. That's where most of that cloud-to-ground lightning is concentrated. And as we kind of just scan back up to the north and west, it looks like we might get a little break, maybe hopefully a little more than what we've had this last time between these storms. You've got another batch of stuff of stormy weather here that is in Jefferson County and across into Monroe, parts of St. Clair County. That's been very heavy rainfall. With the hilly terrain, particularly in Jefferson County, we would be concerned that some of those low water crossings are coming up. It looks like the farm fields over in St. Clair and Monroe counties are probably handling it a little better than what some other stuff might be reading. So again, you know, we've got the flooding ongoing. We've got poor drainage areas that are just having issues. And we're finally starting to see, I think, where we're going to ease up for a little bit and the rain's not going to be so intense. I'm still concerned, and I think we all are, about this massive mess out here to the west, which kind of just keeps filling in as you go west of St. Clair and west of Washington, Missouri. And then, you know, we've got more showers and thunderstorms stretching out over parts of mid-Missouri, and all that's sagging towards the southeast. And there's still some development there along and north of 70 from, you know, well, let's say Danville out through Kingdom City and all the way to Columbia. And that stretches up towards Mexico, Missouri. So that action has the chance to, you know, slide towards the metro area and get in towards St. Louis. So that is problematic for us. Again, around St. Louis, you see the rain over in Illinois on Carlisle Lake, noisy over there too with heavy rainfall. But again, not enough there to be causing substantial flood issues. So, you know, of course, rain anywhere right now is not really a good thing. We just don't need it. We just flat out don't need it. So very noisy with the storms over Carlisle Lake. Still some heavy rain. Lightning's incredible here over northern Jefferson County and down into Monroe and St. Clair County. And then you've got more rain back here across Franklin County, stretching in towards the Cuba area and back towards Gascony County, Rosebud, Missouri. You know, J-Pan area is getting very wet. And we'll deal with this as we head through the remainder of the overnight hours. This is going to be the area, we think, just off to the south of St. Louis that we will watch as all of these thunderstorms, they keep developing back here in mid-Missouri, kind of drop off towards the southeast and kind of start flowing over these same areas in the Ozarks. Now, these areas that are to the southwest of St. Louis generally haven't had as much rain as what we've had in the immediate metro area. So as a consequence from that, you know, I don't think we're looking at massive flooding in those areas. But again, if you get rainfall rates of 2 inches an hour and you can sustain that for an extended period of time, and there is that possibility of these kind of building in and filling in and making a train, if you will, of storms or a line of storms, then that potential where you get 5 or 6 inches of rain does arise, and especially in hilly terrain, if you get that in short order, it really does cause some big problems. And you know, it's more of the rushing water versus, you know, the water that's just overflowing and standing, which is what we're seeing a lot of here in the middle of the night around St. Louis. A lot of the water, because of the poor drainage areas or the creeks coming up and getting full, kind of just sitting on the roads, and you know, people are driving into that. And really, it's hard to see water on the road at night. I mean, the road's wet anyway, so it's glossy, and you don't know when you start riding into it. But the deal is, as soon as you hit that and you sense it, to stop and get back out of that, because you know, you keep driving into it, it gets deeper, and then you get stuck. And you know, we haven't had any reports in the last, I'd say probably 30 minutes of additional rescues, but we have had some water rescues ongoing earlier, before 11:30. It does look like the most intense area of rainfall right now, like just rainfall intensity, is pushing in towards the Arnold area. So we're going to zoom in there. You know what? I'm going to change the color table on this just a little bit. And then we're going to get rid of that. So we don't really need. Could there be some small hail in here? Sure, there could be, but probably not much. But just looking at this kind of gives you a better idea of where the heaviest rain is. And right here along 141 Arnold, I got to turn that layer off before it's going to let me do it. There's, 2.5 inches per hour, 2.3 inches, 2.74, 3 inches. You're pushing rainfall rates 2.5 to 3 inches an hour going over the same spot for about an hour. So you're going to get that heavy rain. So, this is the area that's down here along 141, kind of the Fenton area. As you go down Highway 21, you go down Gravois or Tesson Ferry, Merrimack Bottom Road's in there. You're really looking at some pretty intense rainfall in this area. And we know this area is pretty hilly as you get down close to the Merrimack River. So you're probably looking at some problems here going out of Fenton. We know Fenton had, at the fire department there, had 2 to 3 inches of rain in an hour. And so we think that's what we've seen spreading into this area here across northern portions of Jefferson County. You kind of see a bit of a merger there where the storms are kind of merging, which just enhances those rainfall rates and really puts down the intense rainfall. And that is centered on 141, going right from Fenton all the way down to Arnold, where it is just absolutely pouring right now. I'm going to broaden this out a little bit since I changed the color table a little bit for you. And you look back to the south and east, and you see there are quite a few areas where there's heavier rain sliding through. The good news for much of the metro, with the exception of the far southern metro down along 141 from Valley Park to Fenton and on south, the rain that's right now over Bridgeton and North County seems to be moving fast enough and isn't heavy enough to cause much of an additional flood threat or flood problem. May prolong it a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's enough to cause additional problems. Now we look back to the west here, and we've got some of that heavier rain showing up into Franklin County, and that's stretching down into Washington and Crawford counties. So those are areas where we're going to watch because, it's not pounding continuously in those areas, that rain isn't, but there's more up the road that's going to be impacting these areas as the evening wears on. Right now, the heaviest rainfall rates are looking like they're around the Lake of the Ozarks area, and everything's sliding towards the southeast. So, we're hopeful that the next batch of heavier rain shifts farther south of St. Louis and goes over areas that haven't seen so much heavy rainfall so far. I mean, that's what we can hope for, right? Because the metro area at this point really can't take much more rain, especially this area along Manchester Road down 141. You go out of Manchester, down to Valley Park, down through Fenton, and then work your way all the way down here towards Arnold. That area just getting pounded with very heavy rainfall right now. Really hard to see, whether there's water on the road or not. But we can tell you that a lot of the roads that normally flood are flooded, and there have been water rescues this evening. We'd like to not see any more. So if you come up on water that's covering the roads, you don't want to be driving in that. You want to let it go. Again, we add the lightning in there for you. You're not getting much rest tonight in Jefferson County. You're not getting much sleep over in Redbud. St. Clair headed towards Lonedale. You're not getting much rest. It's finally settled down out into St. Charles County where you're not hearing the thunder and seeing the lightning to the extent that you were. Still up north here, Alton in through Hazelwood. and back around towards Florissant. There's some lightning, but it's not like what it was earlier. I mean, it was just like almost non-stop, continuous lightning there for a while. So it's pretty amazing, actually. So we do have the flash flood warning that continues for the metro area. It's going to be in effect until 2:30. Whoops, I'm going to do that. Okay, so what did we just get? So now Franklin County is going under the flash flood warning. All right, let me switch computers. So let's see what part of Franklin County we got here. So we're going for this area. You see the area that stretches through Union and St. Clair. This is out really going from Beaufort and then towards St. Clair and then down here, really pretty close to the Lowndale area. But that's the area that they've got here for the flash flood warning. And this is because of the rain that's already occurred and the rain that is on the way. That one goes until 4:30. Nearly 2 inches of rain with that storm just around into the southeast of St. Clair. And with more rain coming in, obviously with hilly terrain, you know, you've got low water crossings here as you go down into Franklin County. You got low water crossings in Jefferson County. And the challenge is going to be for people getting up early tomorrow morning that work really early in the nighttime, in the dark, being able to see what those roads look like, you know, to be able to tell that there's water over the roads, to be able to tell that the low water crossings flooded out in the dark, because, you know, first of all, there's not street lights at these low water crossings. You're relying on your headlights, and especially if it's pouring rain, that's going to be a problem here for the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning. And so we're already at 12:23, and, you know, another flash flood warning. So this time for Franklin County, and, you know, another 1 to 2 inches of rain pretty easily, I would say, out of this particular cell, or these cells, as they continue to press on towards the southeast. All right, we're going to send this out to our social media platforms. And just do this real fast so that if you're following on Twitter, you know, if I can type. All right, so we've got that, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're just going to send that. Whoops. Okay, now it'll go. All right. So there you have it with the thunderstorms, just kind of looking at the broader view across the region again. You know, it's one of those nights where you're sitting here and you kind of feel helpless because you know the water is rising in a lot of places, and unfortunately it's the folks that had to deal with a bunch of this last week are having to deal with a repeat performance, you know, this week after having spent a weekend trying to clean up and pick up and clean out, and now they're dealing with more water in their basements, and we've got water over the roads, and you know, it's just a bad situation in a lot of cases. You know, you find out in these kinds of rains just what kind of water problems you got around your house and around your apartment and in your neighborhood. And there are certain spots where, you know, it's just flat out low and it's going to be a problem. So here we have it, the flash flood warnings now, city of St. Louis, much of St. Louis County. We are getting a break from those widespread storms in most of St. Louis County right now. You still have some up around the airport, and they're still dropping some heavy rain. I mean, not to be dismissive of that, but they're moving and they're not staying over the same spot. We just need to keep that going. You have the other storms from De Pere down to Sunset Hills, and then we go into our second warning, which is down farther southern portions, really the far southeastern portion of St. Louis County, down into northeastern Jefferson County, which does include the Arnold area, which is getting pounded right now with the heavy rainfall around the Arnold area. And then that stretches over towards St. Clair and Monroe counties, where we've seen a couple of 3 inches of rain there as well. I want to show you what it looks like down in Arnold. So that's what it looked like down in Arnold. You lose my audio when you go to it. Let me see if I can fix that and maybe call it up over here. But yeah, here we go. I'll put it in here. You won't lose me on this. Okay, so 73 degrees. There's the rain. That's Arnold. That's 141 and 55, and I see one car there on 141. Really, you know, I would not be out tonight if I didn't have to be out. You know, at some point I'll go home, and our morning crew is coming in. You know, so they'll be coming in, but I will be sending them a note here soon in the TISL chat to make sure that they know. I mean, look how slow the traffic is moving on 55. That's a huge indicator of just how heavy that rain is down there in Arnold right now. I mean, that's the reality. You don't normally get people driving slow on Interstate 55 or any interstate around St. Louis. But it is just pouring rain right now in Arnold. And so flash flood warning continues for this area. Again, the low spots and areas that traditionally have flooding problems, we're going to see that. And this is very reminiscent of what we were looking at last Thursday when we saw 2 to 3 inches of rain and even 4 inches of rain in a very short order, and that created some problems. There's the heavy rain over in Carlisle, trying to slide towards Interstate 57. It's just having a hard time. And then you've got the other flash flood warning back here into Franklin County. We're also noting the storms down towards Cuba are picking up a little more lightning in those areas too. So we're starting to pick up some of that lightning there. Then we look back to the west, look at all this, out towards Lake of the Ozarks, back towards Sedalia. It's generally along and south of 70, let's say, but what is concerning is the part of this that isn't. You know, this area here that's out Highway 54 where you get off at Kingdom City to go to the lake, you know, that's still, that potentially on a southeast track could impact the southern parts of the metro area. At the very least, it could impact, you know, parts of Warren County, Franklin County, and Jefferson County if it holds together and continues to move to the southeast. So that's where we are right now. The flash flooding is pretty much confined to the immediate metro area. Don't think it's as bad as what we saw last week for most of us, but again, a lot of the same places are dealing with the same issues, and it is problematic. And so there are some roads that are closed because of water over the roads. We have had some rescues, although we haven't heard a lot of them lately. But we did have some reports of that when the rain was coming down harder for a longer period of time in St. Louis, so about an hour or so ago. So we're staying here and watching it for you on 5+. We're going to pop on the cameras and I'll go away for a little bit, but I'll still be here getting some more information, trying to work some information in for you, see what we can find out from our crews that are roaming around out there and being safe in doing so. So that's what we're working on for you here tonight. But again, just don't drive through those flooded roads. If there's water over the road, you don't need to drive through it. Turn around, don't drown, You know, that's our biggest. We had 2 deaths reported last week, and that's where they came from, people in floodwater. So let's just not do that. All right. We'll see you in a little bit with another update, probably around 1 o'clock. We'll probably get you another update around 1 o'clock. Alrighty, we are back. It is 1 o'clock. We have a new flash flood warning, kind of a strange polygon, but nonetheless, it's for areas south of St. Louis mostly. It does include a portion of St. Louis County, a very small portion down, well, it looks like it's a little bit west of 141, if I can see that correctly. No, it actually only be from about 141 on down towards Arnold, right? So from Fenton down to Festus, and then over to Red Bud, and then down into along 55 into St. Genevieve. So that's where it is. It's kind of this, it's around the other flash flood warning that was in effect for the metro area. So that's where this area has slid. We did get a report of some water rescues ongoing along Romaine Creek Road. It was Romaine Creek Road and Conert. So, you know, that's a place you've probably heard of before, having some flooding problems. Down 55, rough go here. Once you get down south of the 67 split, south of Festus, traffic's been going really slow in that area. We still have the flash flood warning in effect for the metro area too. But you can see the rain has let up across most of the metro considerably compared to what we were looking at. And that's not where I wanted to go. I want to go here. This is the good news. You know, while we're still seeing some heavier rain here in parts of North County, even into North City, even over into Madison County, it's moving and it's not sitting over the same spots. It's also not of the intensity of what we were seeing earlier when we had the massive area. Now, we do have much of Carlisle Lake, from Carlisle, eastern portions and central portions of Clinton County under a flash flood warning too. So that includes Carlisle Lake over towards Keysport, that whole area along US 50. Very torrential rain falling there. And we have one other flash flood warning that's back here into Franklin County, which these areas here southwest of St. Louis, we may be looking at the need for a warning eventually here down into Crawford and Washington counties as the heavy rain continues in those areas. And this is pretty hilly terrain off to the southwest of St. Louis. So once you get into the hills here of the eastern Ozarks, then you add another dynamic with the water draining and having to rush off. And so then you create more of a swift water flash flooding scenario versus what we see often in the metro area, which is the roads, the drains are backed up, and it just becomes a flash flood where the water's not necessarily flowing rapidly, but is backed up and growing in size and kind of fills the bathtub, if you will, versus, you know, racing, rushing water that's racing down the roads or racing down the creek and across low water crossings and that sort of thing. And that's what we can expect, I think, as we go through the remainder of the night, looking to the south and southwest of St. Louis. This area really increasing here in intensity, and also with the lightning across parts of Crawford and Washington County and in through Franklin County. And as we look back to the north and west from there, we still see more thunderstorms, although they do seem to be showing some signs maybe of losing a little bit of their strength. But we would think that what you see back over the Lake of the Ozarks region is also going to be moving over into parts of southeast Missouri. And so that would bring up the, you know, greatest flash flooding threat being maybe in this area for the rest of the night. I mean, I can't say for sure if it's going to be there or, you know, if it ends up sliding maybe a little farther south. But the bottom line is, you know, it's somewhere south of St. Louis where this greatest threat is going to settle. And that's going to take us in towards daybreak, and we'll have to deal with that as we go through much of the rest of the night. So let's see. In DeSoto, some street flooding there and some vehicles stranded there. In Fenton, nearly 3 inches of rainfall as of 11:35 p.m. And most of that coming, you know, in about an hour. most of it, not all of it, but most of it. So we're starting to get some of those reports coming in now. 2 to 3 inches of rain, within an hour or so. It's still on top of saturated ground. It makes a big, huge difference in the runoff and what goes into the creeks and what the ground can absorb. It also makes a big difference when that falls over an urban area versus over farm fields or forests, and then, where you've got the hills and the terrain coming into play. So, there's just a lot going on with what we've had the last week and a half with all of the rain that we've had the last week and a half. This would put some of us, with today's rainfall, I think this would put some of us more than 1.5 feet of rain in the last week to 10 days, which is pretty substantial, clearly. And so we have flash flood warnings as a result because of that and because of the ongoing problems. Now, I think a lot of what we've seen in the city and in much of St. Louis County is going to go down pretty quickly now that it seems like the rain has let up considerably. But man, is it a noisy night tonight down to the south and off to the east of St. Louis. We've seen things around much of the metro area settle down, even down towards Arnold where you saw that drenching rain. We're starting to see it let up right now, and I think the focus is going to shift a little farther to the south. And that give the metro area a bit of a break here from not only all of the nearly continuous thunder and lightning, but also the with seemingly never-ending rain. So you have the areas off to the east and to the south of St. Louis where it becomes more of an issue here, heading through the rest of the overnight hours. Flash flood warning does include Chester. It does include St. Genevieve. It includes pretty much all of Interstate 55 from the Perry-St. Genevieve County line going back to the north. And you're basically under that flash flood warning, or under one or the other of them, all the way in through the Poplar Street Bridge. Until you cross the Poplar Street Bridge, and then it's expired, or not issued. And the flooding has not been as bad east of St. Louis per se as what we've dealt with in parts of St. Louis County. North County saw good, healthy doses of rain earlier, and that was problematic. Now that heavy rain is really shifting onto the south, and you look at this, and again, going back into the fact that you have hilly terrain down this way, especially here, you're looking in the areas where people love to go camping, this area down towards Steelville and Sullivan, Missouri. I mean, it's beautiful country, but, the Merrimack River is very small and narrow in this area, and all the creeks that feed into it are small and narrow, and those little creeks will fill up quickly, and so you can expect some flooding to occur in these areas if this rain continues to drench the same spots over and over. And it appears that's going to be the case. You're going to get several rounds here as we go through the overnight hours, and it's 2 to 3 inches in an hour before it lets up. One little problematic thing there is another little cell developing just north of downtown St. Peters. Looks like up towards Lakeside 370 Park. Isn't that something? So just can't seem to completely get out of the rain. You're still looking at it sliding through, even though it has let up across much of the metro area. So our concern is water on the roads and people driving through and into the water on the roads. So that's our number one concern. That's the number one way people end up in a predicament. So, let's be safe out there. Let's not drive into the water where it's covering the roads. Let's avoid those low water crossings where the water's rushing through. You might think you can get through it. It only takes about 12 inches of rushing water, moving water, to lift your car and zip it on out. So it is a concern, especially for the hilly terrain down to the south and southwest of St. Louis. A lot of what we've seen around much of the metro area has been that traditional road flooding where the roads can't drain when they get 2 to 3 inches of rain in an hour. And I think a lot of that's probably started to drop back off now. But the areas south of St. Louis where the rain is just starting to pick up, those are the areas we're going to be concerned about as we head through the rest of the overnight hours and towards daybreak. So, we're continuing to monitor this situation. It is going to continue to evolve through the night. Anthony Slaughter and Gary Frank both will be here bright and early on your Thursday morning to keep you updated. I'll get you another update in about 20 minutes or so at 1:30, and then we'll be letting it go from there and kind of assessing the trends. But I got to get Anthony a note written up here and get some stuff squared away, and we'll get back with you here in a little bit. Not sure if you're going to hear. So now you can hear my mic. So there you go with the lightning you see from downtown St. Louis. Yeah, it's pretty amazing the amount of lightning that we're dealing with around the St. Louis area, and we have dealt with. It's not as intense as it was, that's for sure. So there's a look over at Busch Stadium. Of course, I guess now it's yesterday's game. That was postponed till tomorrow, or later today, if you will. 12:15, Cardinals doing a doubleheader. I think they'll be able to get the 12:15 game in. Sure seems like it. Here's your look down at from the Drury Inn and Suites in Arnold, looking at 55 at 141. Light traffic this time of night, so again, it's not the biggest impact on roads. Yeah, there are flooded roads, and yes, there are problems, but there's also, it's not like it's a rush hour or getting ready to be a rush hour. This is a time when most people are home, and and then unfortunately some folks are having to deal with water in their basements again, and seepage and all that good stuff. So there you go for that. I'll check back in with you in about 13 minutes or 17 minutes. right, everybody, it's coming up on 1:30 here on a Thursday morning, and we're looking at showers and thunderstorms and flash flooding across the region. Still pretty noisy with all that lightning and thunder off to the south and east of St. Louis. So let's just kind of run down our flash flood warnings because they stretch from Illinois back into the St. Louis area and then back to the west. So there's quite a large number of areas that we're dealing with here as far as flash flooding. So let's start first in the immediate metro St. Louis area, because we have a lot to talk about here. Some more storms picking up in intensity right now, unfortunately, right over the city. And that includes parts of North County and then down towards Sunset Hills, Shrewsbury area. This flash flood warning here includes St. Louis County and the city of St. Louis, and that's in effect until 2:30. It's very possible with this redevelopment of showers and storms right over St. Louis that it could get extended. It's possible. Okay, the next one is just to the south. That also includes a small portion of St. Louis County, and then into northeastern portions. Oh, I'm echoing, it says. That I don't know how to fix unless I do that. Let me try that. Tell me I'm echoing now or no echo. I think I fixed it. Better. Much better. Okay, great. Okay, who knew? So, here's the flash flood warning that's down to our south. And that includes St. Clair County, back into Monroe County, northeastern Jefferson County, and then extreme southern portions of St. Louis County. Now, we're going to go a little farther south because there's one more warning here that includes parts of St. Louis County. It's really the part of St. Louis County that's right around Fenton and right around 44 and 141, and then goes down into Jefferson County, and then that slides over into southern portions of Monroe County, down into Randolph County, and a good chunk of St. Genevieve County. Okay? So basically 55 all the way from the Perry-St. Genevieve County line into St. Louis is under a flash flood warning right now. We're dealing with a lot of water problems in those areas. We have another flash flood warning out here, and this is in Franklin County, a good chunk of Franklin County, and there's a pretty large area of steadier rain that's coming in from the west on top of the 1.5 to 3 inches you've already seen. Okay, let's broaden out the view. One more, and that's over here in Clinton County, Illinois. Okay, Clinton County, our last flash flood warning that's in effect, and that one is until 4:45. Now, any of these warnings could get extended, you know, to be longer, in effect for a longer period of time. Metro area just kind of depends. You see more rain developing over parts of St. Louis County and St. Louis City. You know, if it keeps on moving, then we're in a position where maybe we can drain the water okay, and it's not, it just kind of prolongs what's already out there but doesn't make anything any worse. The area we're really watching now is this area down into Washington and Crawford County, because here's where we're looking at some of the heaviest rainfall. I'm going to take off the lightning, and you can see that's where your intense rainfall is. These are the intense rainfall rates, around a couple of inches an hour. They're falling over very hilly terrain. This area, you know, you travel Highway 8 from Potosi over to Steelville or up towards Sullivan here. You know, when you take any of these highways that run through the Mark Twain Forest, it's beautiful, scenic, but it's also very hilly terrain. There's a lot of water, low water crossings here. And those creeks and streams over those low water crossings, when that water is rushing, as you would get from a good rain, this is what you've got tonight. And so there's the potential for additional flash flooding. And then we look back to the west, and we do find more showers and thunderstorms here that continue to develop south of Interstate 70, and they are moving towards the southeast. So the question's now going to become is, will we have enough rain over our southern counties to see additional flash flood warnings? Our bet is that you will see additional flash flood warnings issued here. Particularly, I'm going to bet, you know, in this hilly terrain, you're really going to watch it pop up down in this area down here. These are the areas. Rolla, I think, is, you know, anywhere in Phelps and Dent counties, Crawford and Washington County, and then eventually by sunrise or maybe a little after down towards Iron and Reynolds County. You may be looking at some flash flooding ongoing as this whole big band of torrential rain just kind of slides to the southeast and keeps developing over many of the same areas. Now, around the metro, it does look like, I'm just looking at some of the USGS graphs here. Oh, the river gauges or the stream gauges, and it looks like in some cases we're finally starting to see things kind of, you know, they've peaked and now they're dropping. So that's the case out in, where's that, Deer Creek? It's Deer Creek in Ladue. Okay, Deer Creek, Black Creek, both of those are bad creeks when it comes to flooding. And so they go up really fast, but they also come down really fast. So I look at Deer Creek and Maplewood, and it looks like it's peaking just shy of where it was last Thursday. Now, last Thursday, you'll remember, we had all kinds of problems in Maplewood and Brentwood, all around there because of the flooding, creeks coming out of their banks, and the flooding that we had to deal with. But it looks like we're close to, or perhaps we've managed to get our creek levels to crest, and they're starting to go back down. Now, here's the problem. You look at the radar, I come back over here and look at the radar, and I see more rain. And it's just kind of developing over these same areas. So, you know, if the feed of rain keeps, you know, if that flow, the forcing mechanisms that keep generating these showers and thunderstorms continue over the same areas for much of the rest of the night, then, you know, additional flash flooding and additional problems will develop. We've had reports along 141 down in Romaine Creek, and that's in this area, you know, not too far from Fenton. But this area down basically northern portions of Jefferson County, you know, right in that Romaine Creek and Conant Road, that area was reported to be having some problems and water rescues there. And we've had reports of 141 near 21, which would be, yeah, that's Tessot Ferry there. That's the same similar area. You know, reports of water rescues in this area too. So you've got a lot of fire crews that are out there along 141 in Jefferson County making water rescues. Even though the rain is let up, now that runoff from the really intense rain over the last hour or so is causing everything to flood, and you've got rescues that are ongoing there now. So we still have some heavy rain in parts of the metro area sliding into the metro east, so it's sliding into Madison and St. Clair County. You know, I think we could get another half an inch of rain out of that, but I think we're at the point now where unless it sits over the same areas in the metro, the worst of it should be over for Metro St. Louis, unless this keeps on regenerating right over the same spots, and then we'll have more problems. I think we're going to shift it farther to the south for the remainder of the night. So I think the areas of concern really stretch along that Rolla to Steelville to Potosi to Park Hills to Farmington to St. Genevieve line. That's going to be our area, and then points on to the south from there where we see the heaviest rainfall during the overnight hours. And so that's where I think we're really going to be in our situation. So we're starting to get that rain back downtown again. You know, it's picking back up in downtown St. Louis, but it's still not as heavy as it was when it came through here a little while ago. All right, so flash flood warnings, what are we doing? Turning around, don't drown. You know, the biggest number of deaths with flash floods are people that drive into flooded roads. And I know it's really hard to see at night, you know, and it's just